As everyone knows, we've got Ruth and Andrea hosting this evening, and I'll be just doing the background of things. And the topic today is umpire hand signals and terminology. So do you guys just want to do a quick intro each, please?
Do you want me to go first? For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ruth Robinson. I'm an umpire coach and a board member actually at the Hamilton City Netball Centre, and I'm also part of the Level 2 Waikato Bay of Plenty Umpire Development Squad. So pretty active, love netball, and really enjoying actually doing these rule updates. It's helping solidify even for myself just the slight changes that are happening. So yeah, welcome tonight.
Hi everyone, I'm Andrea Hall. I've been involved at the centre in a number of capacities, but mostly as an umpire. I'm also an umpire coach, and I am also part of the leadership group, and I'm a coach of the Level 1 Pathway Squad with Waikato Bay of Plenty zone. So yeah, like Ruth, love netball, and it's been really great to be able to bring these sessions to you for our own personal benefit, but also hopefully it's helped you all come to grips with some of the changes or clarifications that have happened with the rules moving forward for this year.
Cool, thank you. So I'll just go over the protocol. So if everyone could just leave their audio on mute. If you've got any questions, if you could just type them in the chat box, and we'll answer them at the end. Yeah, so and if we don't get time to answer your questions through the session, we can email them out to you, or I'll post them on the Facebook event with the answer there. Yeah, so we'll get started then.
Awesome. Thanks, Jamie. I'm first up tonight. We're looking initially at the centre positioned incorrectly. So to start with, if you've got the new rule book, new rule book at the back from about page 81 are all the umpire hand signals. So if you want to refresh or refer to them following this session, they're all there for you. The one that we are referring to here, I'll show it to you as best I can. It's just you're tracing a horizontal circle, and it's referring to when the centre is not wholly in the circle. So an example of that may be that they've got a foot slightly out of the circle, across the centre circle white line, and you would call that, instead of saying, you know, not foot not completely in the circle, or incorrect footing, it's simply centre positioned incorrectly. And the sanction for this is a free pass. And if the foot is obviously out of the circle, it's where that foot would be. So it's where the infringement goes wrong. And that's quite a familiar theme for all our sanctions. Actually, it's where does it go wrong? That's where it's taken. So again, centre positioned incorrectly, and you've got your semicircle hand signal. Don't do it too high, sort of at waist level, and followed by also a verbal communication with the centre. Next one.
Thanks, Andrea. So the next one, these are just really slight little changes that they've made, which we thought we would just bring in and let everyone know. Very slight changes, but the hand signal for offside or breaking, so the hand signal is still the same. We've got the hand traces a small upward arc in the direction of the player's movement. So you can see, once again, like Andrea said, this one's just waist height, and it's just a slight movement like that. So we're just going over like that. We don't need to flick it backwards and forwards. It's just the They did make a change a couple of years ago, and we were told that we needed to start saying things like incorrect entry to area and things like that. They've now gone back and said, actually, no, that's a bit of a mouthful. Let's go back to what it was, and it's either offside or breaking. So a lot easier to remember to say that than what they were trying to get us to say for a couple of years there. So that's that one.
Right, thanks, Ruth. The next one is ball over a third or untouched at the centre pass. Again, it's a medium arc. Obviously not, I'm doing it probably a little bit higher than I should just so that you can see it, but about waist height in a medium arc and over a third or untouched at a centre pass. Now, just to clarify what that means, it means that if it's caught in the goal third, so it's not touched in the centre third, the sanction for that is a free pass. But what I also wanted to just briefly touch on is just remember too that if the ball goes out of court in the centre third, it's a throw-in. If it's untouched and it goes straight out of court, it'll be a throw-in. But if it goes out of court, but it's gone over the transverse line and out of court in the goal third, it's actually ball untouched at the centre pass. And the free pass is taken in the goal third.
Cool.
It's it's not, it won't be a throw-in because the first infringement is the ball going over the third or being untouched in at the centre pass.
Cool. The next part that they've put into the rule book, where there's been slight changes that are not in the old book, was, I'll just read this out to you. So it says, when penalising an infringement, umpires should use the correct terminology for the infringement, including the correct use of playing positions. So that's where they're referring to Rule 5.1.12. So they're saying, as per the positions in the rule book, which is goal shooter, goal attack, wing attack, centre, wing defence, goal defence, and goalkeeper. How often do we hear people say wing or goal shoot or goal keep? It's not. It's actually goal shooter, goalkeeper, wing defence, or wing attack. So it's just getting some clarity around that. Carrying on, it's talking about the court areas. So using the correct terminology, goal circle, goal line. You know, we used to have, years ago, we still catch people saying baseline. We don't say baseline anymore, it's the goal line. So moving on from that, following a clearly communicated ruling by the umpire, which is 6.1.2, which is using the correct terminology and the appropriate hand signals. So that's what we were talking about in the previous three ones, is just where they've changed the terminology for those particular hand signals. So it's saying here that at international level, terminology used should be precise and succinct. For matches below international level, additional information may be required to ensure that players are aware of how they need to change their behaviour. So I think we move on further down here about what that's talking about. But I guess one thing we've always been taught is, whilst it's great to watch the umpires on the ANZ games, sometimes they might be saying things different to how we are, and that's because obviously they're umpiring at quite a different level to what we are. So whilst it's good to watch what they do and learn from them, if we're told by our coaches to do something slightly different, then my suggestion would be to do what your coach is telling you, because that's what's applicable to the level that you're umpiring.
Thanks, Ruth. I'm just following on from for the next slide, which is on Rule 8.2 and the centre pass. Again, the changes here is really about terminology. So it's referring to Rule 8.2.1 subsections 1, 2 and 3. the hand signals for these relate to pictures 10, 11 and 12 in your umpiring hand signals. And again, just a slight tweak in the terminology. So position correct, not position correctly. So prior to that, we might have said not wholly within, breaking or offside, and untouched, as opposed to what we may have previously said, not received. So it's just making sure that, again, we are making sure that we're using the right terminology, and that may be just a small discussion that you have with your umpire coach, or they may bring up with you, just make sure that you're clarifying what you're saying is what's actually now written in the rule book. And of course, just to follow on from that, to remind you, the sanctions that are related to those infringements is a free pass to the opposing team. Right, next slide, thanks Jamie. So this is referring to when the ball goes out of court. If at a throw-in, the ball is not thrown in, it's become a held ball, still indicate with your three fingers up, or your 3 fingers up for a held ball. Or similarly, if the player steps, or prior to the throw, as they're about to throw the ball in, again you've got your footwork action, hand signal I should say. And don't forget, in those instances, the infringement's not taken on court because the ball hasn't actually entered the court correctly at that stage. So it is still a throw-in to the other team. So you would blow your whistle, say what the infringement is, so for example, held ball with your hand signal, and throw-in would be how you would instruct that to occur. So it's just being a little bit more precise, that you're still communicating the ways in which we would ordinarily with an infringement. So the whistle, verbalising, and with your hand signal. Right, Ruth.
Well, thank you. So the next one is about the toss-up. I don't know how many people still do a toss-up, but it's still there and it's still a rule. What they've added in here, or they've put some words or some terminology around the infringement that might have happened. So if we're taking a toss-up and one player moves before the other player, there was no real direction of what it is that we would say. Now they want us to say very clearly, moved early. So that makes it very clear with what's happening there. Sorry, I should explain that this is while a toss-up is being taken. And then the next one is interference with a toss. So in other words, if someone contacts, or it doesn't quite, the toss-up has been interfered with by the player, then that's what that call is for that one there. The next one, rule 9.4.1, is about methods of playing the ball. So this is where it's, once again, they've come back and they've changed the wording. I think back in the 2018 update, they wanted us to start saying incorrect play of the ball for all of these: held ball, replayed ball, a kick, a fall on the ball, a strike, rolling of the ball, playing the ball on the ground, and also using the goalpost. So we used to have to say incorrect play of the ball. Now what they're saying is, no, actually, let's start being a little bit more specific and actually guiding the player so they actually know what it is that has gone on. So like Andrea said before, it would be the same hand signal that you would use, held ball, 3 fingers, however you do your 3 fingers. Replayed ball is obviously this motion. Kick, you can demonstrate a kick if you like. Fall on the ball, I wouldn't want you to recommend demonstrating falling on the ball. strike, roll, and playing the ball on the ground. So it's just a matter of saying that we can now use those words, whereas before we had to say incorrect play of the ball. So that's what that slight change to the ruling terminology is with that particular area of the rule.
Right, so moving on to the next slide now, footwork. As Ruth just mentioned, another slight change, and it's just about being a little bit more specific about what action has happened that's actually caused the and what the infringement is now being referred to. So, for example, if the foot is dragged, that's what they're actually asking you to say. So you're being quite specific, and you're making it really clear as it explains the action. Or in all other situations, you use the footwork rule. So, for example, if there's a hop, or if the player has landed on 2 feet when they've received the ball, and then they've jumped onto 1 foot, that is still acknowledged as footwork. And of course, the action is your hands up and down. We're not getting away with flutter feet. We're just a simple 1, 2, 3. Keep it nice and clear. And the action out away from your body so that the players can actually see what you're doing with your hands, and you're making that communication with them very clear. So whistle, drag if it's a drag, and if it's any other situation, footwork, and with a nice clear hand signal that goes with that. Okay, moving on to the next slide, requirements for taking a shot. Incorrect shot may have perhaps been referred to, it's just making it a little bit more clear. Say, for example, if the goal attack or goal shooter has had contact with the ground outside of the circle, steps in and takes a shot at goal, and the goal is successful, whistle, incorrect shot at goal, and the action is no goal. It's across from your body, hope you can see that. I was just actually going to make reference to the action. I think it's about incorrect shot, where are we? Oh, it's in there somewhere, I can't find what number it is, but perhaps page 87, incorrect shot of the goal. And as far as interference with the shot, that's if a defending player knocks the goal post. Again, interference with the shot at goal is what you are verbalising, and for the sanction for that would be a penalty pass where the shooter was taking the shot at goal.
Cool, that's awesome. Thank you, Andrea. Moving on to the next slide, contact, our favourite one. So obviously the first is contact. That hasn't changed at all, but they have changed a few words now that we can now say. Once again, this is one of those rules where they took a whole lot of wording out and we were only allowed to say contact. They've now brought some words back into us, which is quite nice. So with rule 12.2.1, we used to have to say moving into a player's space. They now just want us to say causing contact. So that kind of speaks for itself. They've obviously caused contact by moving into the player's space. So a lot easier just to say causing contact. The next one, 12.2.2, inevitable contact. That used to just be just contact. So inevitable contact is when you've got 2 players whereby they might be what we used to term sandwiched by 2 defenders, and they can't move without actually contacting someone to get out of the position that they're in. So that's inevitable contact. The next one is simultaneous contact. So once again, that used to just be contact, but we can now say simultaneous contact with that one. And that's it, actually. So moving on, it's a very quick and easy one tonight, because we just thought we would do the third little update on those rules. So that's all of the rule updates now that we've had come through for this season. The change to the wording for the hand signals and also the terminology for all of those rules, I think now is we've finished it off. So if anyone's got any questions, did any questions come through in the chat, Jamie?
Hi. No questions have come through. Does anyone have questions or?
I do actually. Just one about the inevitable contact.
Yes.
So you'd be feeling that for the player that comes through that is the sandwich player, like for example the attacking player, or would you feel
Right.
that would be?
So it says that how the rule, I just thought I'd grab it actually, because that is a bit of a funny rule and I caught myself second guessing myself as I started to talk about it. But the wording says that players, whether moving or stationary, may not position so closely to an opponent that this player is unable to move without contacting.
Okay.
So it would be against the, if the goal defence has got the goal shooter squished right up against the goal post, for one lack of a better example, and the goal shooter cannot actually move without, you know, forcing her way past that goal keep, then that's, sorry, the goal defence I said, didn't I? Then that's the goal defence's contact, because she's causing inevitable contact. So that's, it's a bit of a strange rule. We don't see it happen very often, but I think it's trying to get rid of that situation where people are contacting because they've been forced into that position, if that makes sense.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other ones there, Jamie, that have come through? No? You're on mute.
I did have another one. Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't be sorry.
The footwork drag. So you would say, just wanting to get it right, you would say footwork first and then say drag, or how exactly would you say that, or would you say dragging your feet, or? Yeah.
I would probably say drag with the footwork hand signal. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
and I think I think probably to begin with a lot of these changes too, it may be that the old terminology pops out.
Yeah.
But then you're thinking, oh golly, I think there's been a change there, but that's a good thing because at least you're recognizing it. So it's like anything that changes, it's a matter of a little bit of habit coming back into it, and also, you know, seeing that on the court. Obviously, if it's a wet day or a slippery surface on the indoor court, it's going to be, there may be a little bit more of that. So if you see it more than once, then hopefully it's this will prompt you to come up with using the word drag as opposed to just footwork. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you.
Cool. Okay then, we'll probably wrap it up there. Thanks for coming along, and thank you, Andrea and Ruth, for sharing your knowledge with us.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Cool. Okay then, thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Good night.